Hello and welcome back to a new video. Today is actually pretty exciting because I'm doing a custom order for someone. Yay! So basically, this guy reached out to me and he was saying how he really wanted a light box and he really likes the design of the City of Tears and Quirrel, and he sent me a couple of places, maybe like Quirrel by the Blue Lake or just the fountain in City of Tears. But ultimately we decided on a design that had both of them. So it's basically the place where Quirrell sits on that bench overlooking the city, which was both of our favorite designs out of the three. So yeah, let me just get started on that. As you can see here, I start on the very last layer, which is just a bunch of towers or spires in the background, and these are way in the background. And these are pretty simple to do. I just copied the picture. They were very not visible in the picture, but I copied them to the best of my abilities, and as you can see, I cut out all the little lines, all the little details, and yeah, this was fun, and it was simple, and yeah. Next, I move on to the second background layer, which is just a wall to a random building in the background, and I just draw it out. Originally, you could see this was supposed to be the page for the windows, but I decided to do it for this instead because I got frustrated. Then I move on to the first layer that's part of the actual building that's going to be in the foreground, and this is the layer with a bunch of windows, and I originally screwed this up because I thought I was good enough that I didn't have to measure anything out and I could just sketch it and it would look perfect, but it did not. So I actually got my ruler out and I measured and spaced everything out, and then I just drew in all the details, all the like rounded, not rounded, but all the window parts, and then yeah, I started cutting them out. I didn't do this 100% accurate because in the original you have the lines that go across the window, they're two little lines instead of one, but that would have been too thin for me to cut. So I just did one line. And as always, I get some tracing paper and I just glue it on the back of all the windows. And next I move on to my all-time favorite layer in this whole entire light box. I don't know why this is my favorite, but it just is. It's basically just three pillars that are between the windows, so I had to use my ruler and measure them out, so when I assembled it, they would be between the windows and not in front of them or anything. And once I completely drew on the details onto one pillar, I used my ruler to transfer the details onto the other pillars to make sure everything is level and even throughout. And then I just move on to cutting everything out, and for that arrow looking detail down the middle of the pillar at the top, I didn't know how I wanted to cut it out. I didn't know if I wanted to cut out that whole triangle and then all the lines that are coming horizontally off of it, just cut them so they don't touch it, or if I wanted to cut those horizontal lines all the way across and then score like between those lines along the edge. But I think I decided to go with the second option. I don't remember really, but yeah. So this next layer is kind of weird because it's just the mumble jumble of a bunch of random different little details. Like there are the spikes on the roof, there's this pillar thing because there's a window right there, and if you look really closely there is something behind that window. So I just copied that. And then there's also a bunch of these like vines or like plant things hanging down, and there's like a broken off piece of something there, and just a bunch of random little details. And yeah, I just draw these out, cut them out. This isn't too difficult or anything, but it's just a weird layer. This layer is where things start getting more exciting because we're nearing the front details, like in the foreground, and then the main focus, which is the bench. So this layer is basically a bunch of roof details, that window details, the bench of course, and then some little lights. So I start on the roof, and basically I just draw a bunch of lines across it, and I cut out every other one to create like these bar looking things, and then later I'm gonna put parchment paper behind it. Also, I'm sorry for the bad lighting, but I really wanted to try to finish this in one day, so I filmed at night, which wasn't a good idea. On to the dreaded bench. I hated every second of this. Oh my goodness. It was just so tiny details. It was so difficult to cut curved little lines that didn't break, that didn't rip. I really struggled. As you can see, my head is in this a lot because I was really concentrating and leaning over it a lot to see everything. Ultimately, I didn't have to cut out the whole bench, which I was happy about because I was going to glue the bugs on there anyways, so they were going to hide most of the bench. So I only had to do a little detail, but it still sucked and I hated it. Anyways, after that, I just cut out the window and then I cut out those lights. And after that, I go in and I glue parchment paper behind the window. And then I don't remember if I filmed this, but I also cut out little circles to glue in the light, like parchment paper instead of normal paper, and I just do that and I'm done with this layer. So this next layer consists of most of the details in the foreground, and I had plans for this layer. I wanted to try something different and new, kind of like what I was doing with the bugs. I wanted to leave out some of the details from this layer, and I wanted to cut them out on a separate piece of paper and glue them over this one so it would create more dimension and hopefully it would look cooler. So that's what I did. Basically, I just left out a bunch of the details and I drew out everything else, and I just scored along these because I wasn't going to cut anything out. I was just wanted the lines to show. So that's what I did mostly for this layer. And finally, I move on to the very front layer. This is the last layer of the light box, and this is just the most simplest thing in the world. It's one little post and then it's just some of these plant things. And yeah, I just cut these out and it was just so simple and easy and I was happy. Oh, and also I just cut out 3 plain simple empty layers just to act as spacers between the background and the foreground. And now it's time to move on to the bugs and all the little details. So I was super excited to get started on this part because I just really love drawing the bugs from this game. I think every single bug is super adorable and super cute, and I just really think that the designs are really cool. Especially Quirrel, I just really like his design a lot. So I was super excited to just get into it and draw them. And I drew Quirrel out really easily. As you can see, I think he looks really good. And yeah, but the knight did not look that good. I redrew him a couple times because I always struggle with him for some reason. But yeah, once I was done drawing, I cut them out. And I had to be really careful with all the little details because this was really small. It was like the size of my fingernail, so it was really tiny. But I think I did a good job cutting them out, except I decapitated the knight by accident. Uh, which doesn't really bother me or anything because I can just glue them on as 2 separate pieces, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, here they are done, and I think they look really good. And here are those detail pieces that I drew out for the other layer. I forgot to film me cutting these out, so here's just the before and then what they look like after. And here I go gluing on everything. The bigger pieces go on the bottom and then the smaller details get glued near the top. So that's that. And after I was done with that, I move on to gluing the bugs onto the bench. And I start with Quirrel and he looks super cool. And then after I made a decision that I agonized over so much, I colored the bench black because I hoped it would create more contrast between the bugs and the bench, but it really didn't help at all, so that kind of sucked, but yeah. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do for the rain because with the City of Tears I had to include some kind of rain, but I was debating what to do because I was thinking that nothing would look good. So I ended up just cutting some strips of parchment paper and gluing those in when I assemble it between the layers so it looks like streams of water running down, I guess, like rain. I think it looked okay at the end. The guy really liked it, so I guess it's good. And as you can see, I added a lot of these strips because I wanted it to look like a lot of rain. And basically the assembling is just a matter of figuring out where they look good and placing them right so they come forward enough and everything. and I really like how it came together. I think it would look really good in the end. And yeah, basically just glue layer after layer after layer until it's all done. And now it's time for the final assembly. So me and my dad made a super nice box, and I decided to use plexiglass instead of normal glass just so it's much sturdier, and I peeled off the protective layer and placed it in there, and then I just gently pushed in the actual paper box. And now for the lights, I just got these LEDs from Walmart, and I like them because they come with a remote and they're pretty long, so you can wrap it around inside quite a bit, and the light is pretty bright. So I just start with that and I stick it in, I peel off the backing and I start sticking it around the inside edge. I have to have the end come out a certain corner because I left a little hole so the cord can come out. And then I move on to putting the back piece on. And for this, I just used these little tiny screws and a screwdriver. There were 9 screws in total, and I just screwed them in. That's it. And it is finally finished. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it looks really good. And this is just what it looks like in daytime without any lights or anything. And I do think the black bench looks okay. I definitely like it better now than I did when I first did it because I was stressing. But it looks okay, and then I'm also really happy about how the box turned out. It turned out really nicely, so I'm happy about that too. And here it is with the lights on, and I'm super happy with how this looks with the lights. I think it just really like brings it all together and makes it look super nice. Um, and you can change the colors obviously because I have the remote, but I do think this blue looks the best, even though the other colors do look cool. But yeah, the blue just makes it look like rain, like how it's supposed to look, so that one's the best option for me anyways. And by the time this video is up, I already shipped it, so I was a little bit upset to let it go because I put a lot of effort and time into it and I got kind of attached, but you know, I had to send it, so it's whatever. But yeah, if anyone else is interested in a custom order, I'll have my email in the description and just email me. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!